Well, I grew up in Edith Street in the north side of town, and when I was a little girl, there was a little man that used to live at the end of our street, right near the railway line, and his name was Hairy Jack. And he used to come and talk to my father at the fence as he went past to go to the shop every day. And he used to really scare me. He had a really long beard. He never shaved, never washed much. He was like a hermit. And when he passed away in his little shed, they found all these treasures that he dug up and that were hidden in his dirt floor. But legend has it that Hairy Jack was not so scary to a little girl after all. He was just a very, very sad man. He had lost the love of his life and never really recovered from that. So the legend of Hairy Jack lives on in my inner child.
An urban myth I've heard is about a fictional student called Trevor Wilkins. He started at the tech school. I believe he was transferred to the high school, and he used to get called up on the roll. And whether Trevor Wilkins was there or away, I was never sure. But when he died, he was buried behind the science wing.
Oh, not really. I believe in the big black cats. I reckon they travel between the Grampians and the Black Grange and across to the scrubs at Edenhope. Quite often see evidence of kills and that sort of stuff that foxes and eagles don't explain. So, yeah.
Could you describe what you've seen?
No, just carcasses and bodies that you wouldn't expect unless it was a pack of dogs, and I don't think that's worker dogs. So, yeah.
Well, there's this one about the old bank, and there's like this myth and legend that there's this little girl and she was riding her tricycle down the stairs and she had like an accident, and then they still think she's like haunting on the stairs in the bank.
Well, I've only just recently come to hear about this, but being involved in the theatre, I've heard about a guy named Jack who actually killed himself with sheep dip in the local cinema centre here, and it was from all reports, it was a pretty terrible thing that happened. But whenever we're in the theatre and something weird happens, or breath of air comes past, or a brush of wind, often everyone says, "Oh, that's just Jack." And I think that's now that we are getting this new town hall, it's just something that's hopefully that legend continues.
Fairs. But the Fly Tower has another story, and that is the ghost who lives there. Now, apparently, I can't think of the man's name, but the times weren't good, and he had financial problems, and he ended his life in a rather awful way. But they didn't find him for some time because he was up in the Fly Tower. He had taken some horrible mixture, and but every now and again, nobody's seen him, Jim, whoever he was, Jim, nobody's seen him, but there's a feeling about the theatre. And I've worked there on one occasion till by 3 o'clock in the morning trying to paint a backdrop, and the wind came up and there was sort of slight clashing and banging and movement in the flies because the big ventilation inlets up top. And I'd have to confess that at the time I just felt so uncomfortable. I just walked away and left, turned off the lights and went, and not knowing how I felt or what it was, but knowing that all of a sudden it was different. And it might have been just the wind, doors slamming, just like that sort of stuff. But the legend still exists, and that will come out in due course at the celebrations for 50 years, the ghost of the Horsham Theatre.
When I was a little girl, my grandfather, who his people come from these lands, he told me many, many stories from his life, as well as stories, our creation stories, our dreaming stories. And there's one in particular that stuck in my mind. However, I've never been to the actual place, but he told me that there's a place on our country that is made up of different rock formations and stones, and that place is connected to the talking dog story. So he said that there was these old people, old ancestors that were looking for a place to stay, and they come upon this campsite and they had a dog with them. And so they were all getting ready to, prepare food and to sleep and settle in for the night. And the dog spoke to them. When the dog started talking, they all turned to stone. So there's this place on our country with these rock formations that I'm yet to go and see.